Okay, so last day we started talking about two-step equations. It's called two-step equations, not that it only takes you, it may take you more than 2 steps to answer it, but there's two numbers that we're trying to get rid of, a constant and a coefficient. That's where the 2 steps come from, and the technique I told you is the number that we tried to get rid of first is the one that we have to add or subtract. Backwards bed math we talked about last day. All right, so let's do a couple of questions on the back. Let's do this one here. All right, so we take our equation, we divide it at the equal sign. Then on the side of the letter, we got 2 numbers sitting here, right? That both need to go away. So we need to make a choice of which one do we get rid of first, the 1.6 or the 3.3. And I said use the strategy backwards bed math. Right? So the one you have to add or subtract to get away first. Riley?
I think we get rid of the 1.6 because the 3.3 is separated by the x and the 3.3. So, but it's division, so you gotta do times.
Nope, it's the other way around. You could try going for the 1.6, but it'll end up just taking you more steps. Right?
So it's 3.3.
Yeah. So the one we have to add or subtract to get rid of first. So that's plus 3.3. The opposite of it is minus. And with adding and subtracting, it's once per side. We subtract there, and we subtract here. Those cancel out. And then we just do the math, right, to clean it up. So we go 1.8 minus 3.3. 1.8 minus 3.3, negative 1.5. Okay, that's what this side is. Over here, 1.6. Okay, so now we still have that 1.6 that we need to get rid of. How do we do that? Right. Sorry, Jared? Did you say something? Right. We do the opposite. What is that 1.6 currently doing to the x? Is it adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Dividing. What's opposite dividing? Multiplication. Multiplication. So we need to multiply to get rid of it. So remember, a 1.6 on the top will get rid of a 1.6 on the bottom.
And the invisible 1.
Right? And if that helps you, you can go over 1. Those cancel out. On the right-hand side, if I give you a number with decimals in it, it's fine to just calculate and don't give me an answer with as a fraction. So we just go negative 1.5 times 1.6. You get an answer of negative 2.4. Okay, and that is your answer. All right, so I want you to do the same thing with this one. So I'll come around and help. All right, looking across the room, I'm glad that you guys are starting to remember the stuff from last day. So first step was to subtract the 1.5. Those were gone. This was negative 0.7. Then how did you get rid of that 2.5? Riley?
How I did it is that I did the dot next to the x.
Yep.
Then I did 2.5 next to it over 1.
Yep.
And then equal sign next to 0.7. And then I did
Yep.
1.75.
Yep.
I times it.
Good. Cross, 1.75. That, and it should have been a negative, Riley.
Yeah, it is. I forgot
Okay.
to say negative.
Okay. And that is it. Okay. Now, last day also we talked about, let's do this question here. Situations like this one. Okay. Now, our first move is to do backwards bed math. That means we have to get the opposite of this one, minus a quarter. Right? And I said, instead of adding and subtracting fractions, that can be difficult. We're going to try avoiding that by getting rid of all the fractions. And I said the strategy we're going to use is to multiply the entire equation by the common denominator. You guys remember that one? There's last thing, right? Last week, so it's been a while. So here we got two denominators. We have a 4 and a 2. What is our common denominator between 4 and 2? Emma?
4.
4. Right? What is the number that both of these can go into? Now there's lots of them. It could be 8. It could be 16. It could be 20. Yes? Riley?
Do you do negative 1 over 4 on each side of the line?
No. Well, just watch. Right? All right? So we're going to multiply by the common denominator. Now everything in the equation gets multiplied. So we multiply this by 4, this by 4, and this by 4. And if you thought the common denominator is 8, that is still a common denominator. You just end up with higher numbers. There's nothing wrong with that. Right? And if you get stuck, just multiply the denominators together to figure out what a common denominator is. Okay, so now, once we've done that, our task is to get rid of the fractions. Right? What we did is you go, hey, compare the denominator to the number we're multiplying. You go, how many times can this 2 fit into this 4? Sorry? I thought I heard somebody here. Emma?
Twice.
Twice. So we cross out this 2 and cross out the 4 and replace the 2 there. Because that's saying this 2 fits in it twice. That's when we're reducing that. Then we have this calculation here to do. 1 times 2, which is 2. So that fraction can be replaced with the number 2.
Because you can't times 1.
Right? Okay, the next one. 4 goes into 4 how many times? Once, thank you. So cross out the 4, place a 1. Then we need to do this calculation. 1 times 1. 1. Okay? Next one here, there's no denominator, so there's no reducing. All we have to do is calculation. 4 times 2 is 8. So we have 8x. Okay. So now instead of dealing with fractions, we deal with this equation. On the side of the variable, there's 2 numbers that we need to get rid of. So the x is all isolated by itself. There's a 1 and there's an 8. Which one do we try to get rid of first? Emma?
The 1?
Yeah, the 1 we have to add or subtract to get away first. All right. So do we add it or subtract it to get rid of it? Emma?
Subtract.
Subtract, thank you. Minus 1 and once per side. Adding and subtracting once per side. Those cancel out. We're left with the 8x. And what do we have on the right-hand side? Jake? 1, thank you. Now we still have this 8 sitting here. How do we get rid of this 8? Division. This is 8 times x. Opposite of timesing, dividing. Divide by 8. When you're multiplying and dividing, everything gets divided. Right? So the 8's are gone. You're left with the x. And the answer is just 1 over 8. And that's it. Okay? Okay. Let's do this one. I'll get you this one started off. Right? So this one's slightly harder than the one before. There's just one extra step that we need to do first. Does anybody remember what the extra step would be? Lachlan?
Turn into improper fraction.
Yeah, we turn into improper fraction. And what is the procedure for turning into improper fraction? Multiply, then add. We multiply, then add. 2 times 8 gives us 16, plus 3 gives us a 19. So that 19, is that the numerator or the denominator? Numerator. What's the denominator? 8. The denominator does not change. Okay. Now, we have a 2 4, and an 8 as our denominators. What's our common denominator? Sorry, I thought I heard from over here.
8.
8, yeah. Or you could have done 16 or 24. So you multiply every term by 8. 8 here, 8 here, 8 here. Okay? I want you to reduce and solve for this, and I'll come around and help. Okay, let's talk about this. Shh. Some people need help. This is a harder one. 2 goes into 8 4 times, so we're left with a 4x there. We have a minus sign between the first and the second term, so we have a minus sign here. Right? Next one, 4 goes into 8 2 times. What number do I write here?
3.
Not a 3, not a 2,
3 over 2.
not a 3 over 2. Riley? 6. We need to do this calculation. 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay? Next one. Because people are pretty good at common denominators and canceling things out, but you're making mistakes of writing this number down. So here, we left the 1 and a 19. So what do I write here? You put that in, Taylor? Yeah, we said 1 times 19 is 19. Okay. What number do we get rid of first?
Minus
Emma? 6. Add or subtract?
Add.
Thank you. Add 6. Add 6. Right? Good. That's a lot of people doing this correctly. Just some mental math errors here. 19 plus 6 is 25. Some people made mistakes doing that adding. Just happens. Okay? And how do we get rid of that 4 now?
Divide.
Divide it. This is 4 times x. Opposite is to divide. And it's okay to have an answer as a fraction. The 4's cancel out. We're left with x is this 25 over 4. Okay? And that is your answer. Okay, let's do
What the heck?
this one here. All right. Just more terms. The process is the same. Okay? If we want to get rid of the denominators, we multiply by a common denominator. So we have a 4, a 3, a 6, and a 2. What is our common denominator here? 12. So, sorry? Nothing. Emma?
6.
Not 6, because 4 can't go into 6. So 12 works. Jacob said 12. 24 would work as well. Riley? 3 would not. Okay. So I'm going to pick the smallest one. So every term gets multiplied by a common denominator. Okay? So now we go 4 goes into 12. How many times?
3.
We cross off and write down a 3. And then we do the calculation. 3 times 1.
3.
3. And then we have a plus sign. All right. And then we do the next simplifying. 3 goes into 12. How many times?
4.
4 times. Cross, 4. We're left with a 4 times x, which is just a 4x equals. Okay. 6 goes into 12. How many times?
2.
2. Cross, 2. And the calculation. 2 times 1. 2. Then we have a minus sign. All right. Then we have a 2 and a 12. How many times does 2 go into 12? 6. And you're left with a 6 times 1, which is a 6. Okay. So now we've got some multiple terms here that can be combined. Right? We have a 2 minus 6. Those are like terms. Those can be combined. What is 2 minus 6?
4.
Not 4.
2
negative 4. All right, so you can combine these two. 2 minus 6, that's just negative 4. Right? So don't get lost with all the numbers. Just you know how to do that. Okay, now we use the equal sign to separate it. What number are we trying to get rid of? Emma? 3. How do you get rid of the 3? Subtract. Because that's a positive 3 plus 4. X. So we subtract 3. Adding, subtracting once per side. All right. So the 3's are gone. I'm left with the 4x. What do we have on the right-hand side now? Negative 7. Thank you. Negative 4 minus 3, negative 7. Okay. Next, we need to get rid of that 4. How do we get rid of that 4? Divide. 4 on the top gets cancelled by a 4 on the bottom. When we're dividing, we divide everything. And that is our answer. Okay? All right. So we'll stop there. And I will have you guys